Real people, real stories, real f***ing life. The Relentless Project. And now, your host, the man on a mission to ignite your inner fire, Ish Lopez. So sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired.
All right, well, here at the dearly beloved with the Cory Speciale.
What up?
Is that Greek or?
It's Italian.
Same thing.
Yeah, I'm a mutt,
But
Can't claim anything too much, though.
I always get asked where I get all my tattoos from. So everyone listening and watching, you're welcome. This is the dude.
Yeah,
And
I'm not claiming all of those, though. You got some.
You've covered a lot. You've covered a lot.
I mean, you had some, though. I mean, I'm not trying to lay claim to those.
Wow. Insulting the host. No.
Sorry.
I was young and dumb. Everyone has those.
Covered in them. Whole body suit of that, so I get it.
Well, you a lot of your stuff was like experimenting on yourself, right? Like, is that?
No, I did. I got a thigh. I got a thigh that I did my first couple on, and that was pretty much it.
How, like, anyone who says tattooing doesn't hurt is a fucking liar.
Yeah.
But how do you manage to like sit there and endure the pain while also remaining focused to like, or is that why they're all trash?
Yeah, I mean, well, so like my first tattoo is like part of the apprenticeship, and I feel like it's pretty common in tattooing is just like generally you tattoo yourself before you tattoo anybody else. Like that's kind of like the first skin that you tattoo on is generally yourself, or that's how it used to be. And it's funny, like when I was allowed to kind of tattoo myself as like the step of my apprenticeship at that point, it was like, I was like so nervous, and it wasn't even like I wasn't scared because it was gonna hurt or anything like that. I was just scared, like it was like the first time I was tattooing. And I remember I was like real worked up, and Kevin, the owner of the shop that I started at, like my mentor or whatever, he was like, calm down, like go smoke a cigarette or do something, and then get back to it and just take a breath. And then I did it, and it was weird because it was like the first time of like tattooing on skin, and I'm doing it on myself, so it does hurt, but I'm like pulling lines, and I'm like, oh wait, like I feel like it should hurt worse than that, so I'm like pushing harder, you know what I mean? And it's just like, so it was weird judging, like trying to get a feel for doing the tattoo, and then also you're feeling it, but it was like, I feel like I was trying to make it hurt worse because I was like, that doesn't feel right. I feel like it hurts worse normally, so I'm like just digging into my skin, and it's just trash. It's like a huge like Sailor Jerry clipper ship on my thigh. It's up, it's
Art.
chewed up. Yeah,
Art.
Yeah, very artistic.
Does that help you
abstract.
gauge like the feeling, like the pressure you should be using? Did that help you?
Tattooing myself? No, I had no. I mean, to be honest, like I don't think I knew what I was doing tattooing for 5 years. Tattooing every day, like just didn't figure it out for a long time. So
it's like jiu-jitsu. Oh, it comes up, I know.
Yeah.
But like you do it for so long and you still feel useless. I was talking with Mike last week about it. Like it's been three and a half years. I should be like an expert in. No,
I don't think you ever become an expert in that.
Don't.
I mean, that was like even when I first started training jiu-jitsu, like my like 2 years ago when I first started, it was just like it was very reminiscent of tattooing, where it was just like it was so hard, like, and I was just getting crushed, obviously, and but it was like, but I wanted to go back because I was like, I can figure this out. I can figure it out. Like I suck, and that was the same with tattooing, where it was just like, I know I'm not doing good work, but it's like, but I know I can. Like there's something to it. Like I got to figure it out. I just got to keep showing up and trying. Like try something else, try something different. Like I got to figure out my game. Like same with tattooing. I got to figure out my style. I got to figure out, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. So like when I first started training jiu-jitsu like 2 years ago, it was just like, it was like the first thing in my life since I started tattooing that like really reminded me of getting into tattooing. Like just the challenge, and it's one of those things, like I feel like with jiu-jitsu and tattooing, it's just like no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you love it, no matter how into it you are, no matter how much you do it, you still kind of always suck. And like even if you hit that like mark that you that you set in your head, like if I get this good, or if I'm as good as this person that I look up to in jiu-jitsu or tattooing, even if you reach that and you're doing that quality of jiu-jitsu or tattooing, it's just like, or at least I hope, or like I do this for myself, it's just like, it should be higher. You should set the next goal. So it's like, it's never enough. Like, I feel like I've far surpassed, and I still think that I'm horrible. Like I'm the most, just
You're your biggest critic.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just like, so
Self-deprecation.
it's like, I'm saying this, but it's just like, and it's all in perspective of like, I still don't think that I'm good in the grand scheme of tattooing or like anything special at all. But it's just like, compared to how horrible I was when I first started, I'm like, I mean, leagues above what I ever expected that I would be able to accomplish, or the tattoos that I were able to do. So, you know,
Mike mentioned
I feel like
that.
you never win. You
Yeah,
know, it's like, no matter how hard you try, it's just like, you know, there's always room to grow. You could perfect it a little bit more, you know.
Especially if you have that mindset.
Yeah.
Which is something I don't want to say I suffer from, because I don't really see it as a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing, I guess. Like, I'm always looking to improve. I'm always looking, and then that also like boils over to like my friends, people I'm close to. Like, I'll be like, "Oh, you're good at this thing. Like, you should make it into a business. You should start scaling it." And they're like, "Dude, I do this for fun." I'm like, "But there's so much you can do. You're so good." And we've had these conversations in tattooing. I'm like, "Bro, you could be this. You could be," and you're like, "Bro, I'm just chilling right now. I'm figuring it out as I go."
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, and like, it's funny. I mean, I don't hate it. Like, everyone's just like, you know, I mean, I get it. They're being nice, or it's like, it's impressive to them. Like, but like, I hate the like, like in anything where it's just like, oh, well, you know, you're so good. And like, I hate that. I don't want my ass kicked. Or kissed. I want like, honest criticism. Like, no, I'm not. Like, I could be better. Like, yeah, it's like, I'm glad that you like it, but like, you know, and it's all relative. Like, you know, and that's even what I say all the time. It doesn't matter. Like, if you're trying, like, to me, especially in tattooing, it's just like, if you truly are trying your hardest, you know, and it's just like you're doing what you're capable of doing, like, to the full extent, it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's tattooers that are better than me, and there always will be. I mean, like, way better than me. There's tattooers that are worse than me, and it doesn't matter. Like, if you're honest about the work that you're putting out and like what you're offering to people, you know, who cares if you're good or not? Like, you have a clientele, they see your work, and if to them that's what they want, like, who cares if I think it's good or not, or like vice versa? Like, it's all relative. Like, you know, like the tattoos that I've done on you, it's just like, you like them, you think they're really good, and at the time in my career they were really good, but I can guarantee if I did them now 2 years later, they would be better, you know. So it's all relative. Like, you know, like, I thought I was good 2 years ago, because compared to what I was doing 2 years before that, like, what I was doing 2 years ago was good. But like, I look at tattoos that I did 2-3 years ago, and to me they're garbage, you know. And it's just like, you know, and obviously, like, that's the, you know, comes with a whole like other bag of things, because it's just like, that's permanent on somebody. So it's like, you know, and I talk very freely, and people are like, oh damn, because they're like, oh, you think the tattoo,
you do be saying
and
that,
it's just like, I don't mean it like that. And I feel like most people that know me, like, I just talk very like blunt and like honest, and it's just like, I'm like, oh, well, that fucking tattoo, like, I could do it better now. And it's just like, not that I think that it's shit, it was just like, it was what I was capable of 2 years ago. And it's just like, you know, I feel like I'm constantly studying tattooing and striving to get better. I invest a lot into my equipment, always looking for better pigment, better machines, better needles, what's going to help, you know, do this, that better. So it's like, I feel like in 2 years, like, I learn a lot, I change a lot, I change my style to, you know, for the better or whatever. Like, I experiment a lot. So it's just like, so yeah, I mean, the tattoo that I did 2 years ago, it's not as good as the one that I could do right now, and it shouldn't. And then in 2 years, I'll look at the work that I'm doing now that I'm proud of, which I'm really, you know, I'll be proud of it. I'll like finish it, I'll be like, hell yeah, that looks so good. And then I'll go home and I'll stare at the pictures and I'll just pick it apart and be like, fuck, that sucks. You know, and it's just like, and I feel bad. Like, that's a permanent thing on that person. It's like, not that I actually think that it sucks, but it's just like, you know, again,
compared
like,
to what you know,
or it's just like, you know, that little line, that fade could be cleaner, that, you know what I mean? Like, just like that saturation could be a little bit better. And it's just like achieving, you know, just a little bit more greatness every time that you do it, you know? And I feel like a lot of people are like, you talk so down on yourself. And it's just like, which, you know, maybe I do need to have a little bit more like confidence or self-esteem or be proud of what I've accomplished. But like, I've learned to kind of, appreciate like my self-doubt and my, you know, just hyper criticism on myself, because I feel like that is why I've never become complacent, you know, that I strive to get better and better and better. Like, all my friends, like everyone that gets tattooed by me, they're like, dude, you're so hard on yourself. And it's just like, and I get it and I understand what they're saying, I do, but at the end of the day, it's just like, well, I feel like, you know, that's why I've never gotten complacent. Like, I see a lot of tattooers around me, you know, that like, I see a lot of potential. They're you know, they're really talented artists, or like I know how good their tattoo, and it's like I look at them, it's like, that's lazy. Like, you didn't try. And to me, it's just like if you're only capable of this and that's what you do, then, you know, hey, like, that, it is what it is. But like, you know, if you could do more and you don't, like, that person paid you a lot of money to put your effort in, and if you just didn't do it because you didn't want to try for that, like, that's shitty. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Is that part of your artistic process of like hyper analyzing your work and seeing where you can improve, or is that just because it seems like you have a healthy relationship with your criticism on yourself? Like, there's people who'll just rip themselves apart and then stay where they're at. You're talking about your tattooing is improving, and I could see that too. I mean, you've been tattooing me what for 3 years, 3 years, and like it always gets better. Or I just like love a new tattoo.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think that it gets better. I definitely do. You know, try really hard. You know, and it's one of those things. I mean, it's how much you put into it. Like, I know even training jujitsu in whatever, you know, and let me just put this out there. Like, I've been very lazy in my training of jujitsu. I got to get back in there. I got to start training regularly again, figure out a schedule that works. But, you know, it's just like, even with jujitsu, if I went in the gym right now, like, and I've been lazy, I haven't been working out, I'm like probably like just the weakest and feel the shittiest and the most out of shape that I've been in a while. But it's like I go in there and I get crushed, and that's what I deserve. Like, I haven't been there. Like, you know, it's just like, you know, the dudes that I used to be able to have like a good roll with, they're just going to crush me. And they've been there and I haven't. So like, why wouldn't it be that way? And that's the same with tattooing. It's just like, again, like, I'm constantly studying tattooing, looking at tattoos and like whatever, always trying to get better. But at the end of the day, it's just like, if I drew more outside of just tattooing what I have scheduled, or like painted more, just, you know, it's just like, obviously I would be better. You get what you put in. And it's just like, so, you know, I feel like I could be doing more. I could be studying more. But, you know, again, like, I'm married, I have 2 kids, like, you know, I have a lot of stuff, which I don't want to make an excuse of that, or like that's justifiable. Like, I probably could, like, you know, not stare at my phone, you know, look at Instagram. But at that, it's just like, generally within, you know, staring at Instagram, like, I follow tattooers and jujitsu. So it's just like, I feel like when I'm on those things, like, it's kind of looking and studying and watching the things that I do like to pursue and kind of get better at. But, you know, there's definitely more time. I could put more time and effort into things. And I feel like if I would, I'd be advancing even quicker, you know? So I feel like, to answer your question, I guess it is part of my creative process, because like, I don't see myself as an artist, you know? It's like, because I wasn't. I feel like I didn't have so much of an artistic ability, like, naturally. Like, I see a lot of tattooers, like, they're just really naturally gifted artists, and they also work hard. They put the time in, they draw and they paint a lot. Like, I always would describe, like, I just wanted to tattoo so bad. And it was like, you know, maybe like growing up, I always had like, I would say like more of an interest in art than the average person. And maybe I was like a little bit better than the average person, like being able to draw or whatever, but like nothing special. It was just like when I first started getting tattooed, and I like fell in love with just like tattooing the shops. Like, I just love tattoo shops. Like, when I was like, if I could be here every day in a tattoo shop, like, that would be awesome. And it was like, I was like, all right, well, how do I do that? Like, got to figure out how to draw. Like, and so it's like, and I always say, like, I always did pretty well in school. Like, I was, you know, lazy as shit. Like, you know, I tested well. Like, I don't think I ever did a homework assignment in my entire life. Like, and if I did, it was like copying someone else's in homeroom or on the bus or something. It was like, but I just would like ace a test. I'd go to the review and like be able to like regurgitate the knowledge the next day on the test. So it was like, I could pick things up pretty quick. And I always say that I approached artwork and tattooing almost in a more of an intellectual way than an artistic way. Like, I had to study it. I had to understand it to be able to then do it. So I feel like I'm not really an artist. So I feel like that constant strive, like, I've always kind of looked at myself as like, I'm kind of a step behind a lot of the tattooers that I look, because a lot of the tattooers that I look up to, I feel like they have an artistic ability. So it's like, I have to work twice as hard to achieve what they do, because it's like, I don't think that I have that natural ability. Now, obviously, with anything, artwork included, it's just like, you know, practice makes perfect. The more time you put into it, you do anything every day for, I mean, at this point, almost I started at the first shop that I worked at 15 years ago. So 15 years, like being around art and being around tattooers and studying it and looking at it. And now I've been tattooing outside of my apprenticeship for almost 11 years now. And, and then apprenticing for like whatever, almost 2 years. It's like 13 days every day. Of course, I'm getting better at it. You know what I mean? I'm like learning.
What got you into it? If you didn't have that, like, usually it's people like, oh, I love to draw, I love to paint. I also like tattoos, so I got in. Like, what was that draw for you?
Yeah, I mean, and that's like, it's
no
funny.
pun intended.
Yeah. I get that question all the time. People are like, oh, what made you want to be a tattooer? And it's funny, like I wasn't that kid. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I grew up, I skateboarded, I played hockey. I played, just pretty much every sport. I tried baseball. Wasn't a big fan of that when I was younger. I played football for a few years, and played hockey. I played volleyball, so, I was a big skateboarder. Like that was my main thing. Like through my teenage years, like started skateboarding. I was a skater boy. And, so like, it's funny, like when I, got it, or like when I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I had no clue. Like, and then I just, when I was like 12 or 13, I just thought tattoos were so cool. And like no one in my family has any tattoos. I'm the only person that has like, in my immediate family. Yeah. Like I have a couple uncles that have, some tattoos and, but like my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, like no one has even one tattoo. So it was like very foreign, but it was like, I would look at like, my favorite skateboarders were like covered in tattoos or like, like fucking motorcycle gangs and stuff. Like I thought like people that I thought were tough, like and cool, like they were covered. I was like, I want to look like those. Like, so even then, like when I was just like, yeah, I'm going to cover myself in tattoos. And, so it was like, had a fake ID, 17 years old, like went and got tattooed. And like, cause my parents would never sign for me to get a tattoo. And so like got my first tattoo and it was just like, I don't know, like I just knew I wanted to like get covered. And it was like 2 weeks later, like made another appointment. And it was just like, I just fell in love with being at the shop. I just thought it was so cool. Like I thought the tattooers were cool. I thought like their lifestyle was cool. Like the aesthetic of the shop, the artwork on the walls, just like the people that were like, the people that come in, like all walks of life, I just thought like tattoo shops are so rad. So it was like, I just wanted to be involved, like, or just like be there all the time. So it was like still, but I was like, well, shit, I'm not an artist. Like I can't do this. Like, but it was just like, I just knew like, and I was working, I was like a fucking lifeguard. I worked at like Panera Bread, just like random jobs. And I was still in high school, so it's just like, on my free time, like, and the tattooers, I started getting close because I was I would just go and hang out at the shops because I was getting tattooed a lot. And then I was like their go-to kid. Like they get a cancellation, they text me, be like, hey, I got an opening. Like I'd call off work, do anything to just be at the tattoo shop and just get another tattoo. Like wouldn't even like show up and just like, well, whatever, pick Flash or like whatever. And, I like liked living there. Like that was like where I wanted to be. If I had free time, if I didn't have to work or I wasn't skateboarding, like if I had free time, I would hang out at the tattoo shop. And, and I was just around so much. So it's like, the shop that I started at and where I was hanging out all the time was like, they had a piercer that like, ran the front desk and like did all that stuff. So it was like, if they were like out of town or whatever on vacation, they were like, Cory, like you're here all the time, like answer a phone, like sweep the shop, like, or, when they got out of town, be like, hey, can you fill in as the front desk? Like I actually quit a job to go and pretty much essentially work for free at this tattoo shop. Cause it was like, that's where I wanted to be. Like, I didn't even care about money. Like, it was just like, I just want to be here. So, I just started being around so much. And then, it was like, I never wanted to pierce or anything like that. But, their piercer quit or whatever. They weren't happy with the piercer. So they left. And, they're like, would you want to learn how to pierce? And I was like, yeah, fuck, I'll do whatever. Like if I could make money and be here all the time, to me, that's like killing two birds with one stone. I don't have to have another job. Like I can hang out here all day and make like money. Like even if it's the little, like smallest amount of money, like again, I'm 18 years old. Like I didn't have like a high cost of living, you know what I mean? Or anything like that. So it was just like, yeah, I'll learn how to pierce. So I like pierced for a while. And then like once I was in the shop, I was going to school for air traffic control. So it was just like I was in college, but I knew what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Radar.
Yeah. So I almost completed. I was one semester away from completing the air traffic control school. But you know, working at that tattoo shop, like that's all that's the only, and even like when I wasn't there, like going to other tattoo shops and hang out, like, oh, what are these people about? Like, what are these tattooers doing? Like, you know, so yeah, I mean, that's
What was
pretty
the
much how I got into
ATC
it.
about?
You
Like,
know,
what? I see you.
yeah.
I don't see you sitting in a chair directing airplanes.
Yeah, you know, I mean, so pretty much with that was like I hated school. Like I wasn't, you know, I just was bored there. Like I was more worried about just like goofing off and, you know, like whatever, skipping school and just being bad. And you know, like I said, school was
Sorry,
never
parents.
really, never really hard for me. Like I got by without doing much. So it was like air traffic control is real big in my area because the community college, or like the area that I'm in, they had a small airport, and they had a control tower at this like little tiny airport, and they ran the air traffic control program through there, and it was like so popular. So I graduated in 2008, and back in '85, ATC, like all the air traffic controllers went on strike, and I think it was Ronald Reagan, I think. Like, when they went all on strike, he's like, fuck it, and just fired everybody. So it's just like in air traffic control, like you can only be an air traffic controller for 25 years and you have to retire, you know, and you have to get in before your 31st birthday, or you're too old, like, to start. So it's just like, so 25 years. So obviously every air traffic controller in the whole country got fired in 1985, and you're only allowed to work as an ATC, you know, air traffic controller, for 25 years. So 25, you know, 85 to 2010. So every air traffic controller in the whole country is retiring at the same time because they've all been in, because they hired all new air traffic controllers in 1985. So everyone was retiring right around 2010, which was a 2-year program. I graduated in 08. So it was huge at the time that I was like, it was known. It was just like, I mean, you can make really good money on a 2-year program, make, you know, 6 figures pretty much out the door, or like right out of school. So it's just like, oh shit, like I could learn how to do that, like, you know, like whatever. And I've, you know, and this might sound arrogant, and I don't really mean that, because again, like I don't think anything too special myself, but I've always said, like, if I wanted to be like anything, like I could figure it out. Like I could put enough time in and figure it out and do it. You know, I could learn it if I went to school. Like I could do it.
I think that's with anyone though, man. If anyone applies themselves to something like you did with tattooing,
yeah,
you
like
just throw yourself in, like, and made it your night, your day, your breathing, your eating.
Like I said, I don't think that I'm special. So I truly believe that applies to anybody. Like if you want it bad enough, like you can do it. You could figure it out. If you put the time in, you put the passion in, you can do it. Like, and I said, like that's not speaking about myself, because I don't think that I'm special. Like, so it's just like, I think that that does apply to anybody. So, you know, air traffic control, I was like, oh yeah, if I go to school, like I can figure it out. I can do this, like make 6 figures, like for going to school for 2 years. Yeah, I'll just do that. So it wasn't like a crazy passion or interest of mine, but it was like, oh, 2 years of school and 6 figures. Cool. Sounds good to me. So, you know, and my parents, like I said, know nothing about tattooers. My parents, you know, shout out to them. Like I had a wonderful childhood. They were like really good parents. And they, both of them, had no handouts. I mean,
wait,
like,
but you're covered in tattoos. You weren't a piece of shit growing up?
no, I was, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was just like, I mean, they did.
That makes one of us.
You know, my brother's a lawyer, my sister's an engineer, so it's just like they did good. 2 out of 3 is pretty good, you know. But so,
and you tattoo all of their friends.
yeah, right. But you know, they were obviously, you know, tattooing to them. They're like, oh, you don't want to get into that. So it's just kind of like pushing me towards a more professional, you know, accepted job or whatever. So ATC, go to college. You know, you're so smart, go to college. Like, don't waste your potential. Yeah, exactly, all that stuff. And like at the time I was skateboarding, it was just like, oh, and I was drinking a lot and just partying, you know, just having fun. And like, I was like, no, I just want to do fun shit for the rest of my life, you know? So like, so I went to air traffic control, and, you know, and it's funny that was cool. You know, it was cool. Like I did well, like the ATSAT or whatever it was like the big testing thing. It was like, I scored, I think I was like, got the second highest score in the class, you know, on the ATSAT, which is like, you know, you pretty much stare at a computer screen for 8 hours and just do these like monotonous tests, you know, to kind of,
those are the worst.
Judge if you're able
to. They have the
to.
people in the room walking around and stuff, or looking through a window. Was it like a proctored test?
I don't know what that means.
Big word for this guy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend to know the definition.
Yeah, so shut
Oversee someone who oversees.
Yeah. I mean, they had people, but it was just pretty much to like, obviously with air traffic control, like, can you maintain focus after staring at a screen for like hours and hours and hours, like completing like these,
ADHD
tests,
people, not allowed.
which is crazy that I did so well, honestly.
Yeah,
But
because I couldn't.
but yeah, so I mean, yeah, air traffic control.
So then you have this huge opportunity. You have ATC.
Yeah.
The world is calling for it, or the country's calling for it.
Yeah. Yep.
You're on track. Now
Yeah. So
you tattoo.
yeah, I mean, and this is one of those like bad things that in hindsight looking back on was like a huge pivotal point in my life. Because like I said, I was working at the tattoo shop while I was going to school for air traffic control. So it's like I knew where I wanted to be at, but it was like just trying to like, well, I can't be a tattooer. I'm not an artist, or like I can't make this a life. I was Pearson making not that much money. But it's like, how long can you be a piercer in your life? So especially like I didn't like fully indulge myself in piercing. I was doing basic stuff, belly buttons, noses, lips, like not getting like crazy into piercing where you could actually make a career into it. So I actually got a DUI, which I was being stupid, just not responsible at all. Again, I was 19. I got my DUI on my 20th birthday at like 3 a.m, or like 2 a.m. So it's just like, and that it was actually, it's funny how it worked out. It was my birthday. And it was my last day of my second to last semester. So I had 1 semester left to complete for air traffic control school. It just happened to, like that second to last semester happened to end on my birthday. And then I got a DUI later that night. And so, that was my first DUI. And in air traffic control, they don't really take kindly to DUIs. And it's just like with one, it's like if you go through some hoops and do this and that, like whatever, like you can still kind of get by with 1 DUI as an air traffic controller, but it's like there's some hoops you got to go through. And it was like, and obviously that sucked. But to me, that was kind of like, because my mom, because I was like, no, like I'm not going to jump through those hoops. And I like pretty much said, like, I'm not gonna finish. Like, I'm not gonna go back to college. My mom was like, well, you better figure something else out. Like, you gotta change your major and like find something else. And, I was just like, yeah, like, I don't know. Like, it's just like, no, like, there's nothing, like, what am I gonna go? Like, I'm gonna go get a business degree and do nothing with it, spend 3 years in school and spend, tens of thousands of dollars getting a degree that I do nothing with, that you see so much. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to take some time and think about it. When I figure something out that is actually like that I know that I'm going to be able to get a job in and make decent money, then I'll go back to school. So, and in my head, like that's kind of, I feel like what I kind of told my parents, so they would just give me some time. But like in my head, like that was it. It was like, all right, I'm pursuing tattooing. Like I'm going to make this work. Because I knew what I wanted to do, and I guess like something, like a big thing again. And I mean, we can get into this, like where it's just like, again, in hindsight, like I wasn't the most materialistic person. Like I was definitely just kind of like a fun seeker. Like, oh, this is fun, I'm just going to do that. Like I didn't really ever play by like the rules or the book or what you're supposed to do. Like I feel like it was just like, yeah, no, this seems cool, so I'm just going to go do this. Like without like really worrying about the consequences, the outcome or whatever. So with, like in that, it's funny, like I pursued tattooing and it was like I said, not being an artist and like having to like learn how to draw and like learn artwork, from pretty much a base level to make it a career. But it's funny, it was like, I didn't care how much money I made. Like to me, it was like enough. Like if I get to hang out in a tattoo shop every day, like that's my life. Like I don't give a shit. Like I can make the least amount of money. Like I'll get by. I'll just live to those means. Like to me, it's enough of a victory to just do this. Like within whatever comes with it. And then, in hindsight, like seeing what it's provided. And obviously we can get back to this. Like I'll just kind of say, but it was just like in hindsight, like looking at the things that I have achieved, like the lifestyle that I've been able to live in tattooing and just like how far I've come in tattooing. And I look back and I'm like, shit, I was never financially driven. Like to me, that's the key of it. Like it was purely passion driven. And I feel like that's why I excelled. There was honest work. No one had to tell me or force me, go hang out with tattooers, go network with tattooers, go figure out why they're using those people that are better than you. Go find out why they're using those machines. Go find out, it was like, I wanted to, like, it was just like, it wasn't like, I'm going to go do this because like, it'll help me make more money. Like, I'm going to do this because I'm going to make money. Like, it was like, I just wanted to. If there was no incentive at all, it was like, I just, so it was like, and I look back and I'm like, oh, that's probably why I excelled in, or like, I don't even want to say excelled because I don't even see that I'm that wonderful. Like a lot of tattooers are going to listen to me like, dude, you suck. So it's just like, I'm not trying to claim like, oh, I'm this awesome tattooer.
They don't have to see me then. No, and it's these stories that like, I don't want to say inspire, they inspire me because what is success? Everyone throws like, I want to be successful. What does that mean for you? Because your success is not the same as my success.
Right.
But we may still be successful.
Right. Yeah.
Like you have found something that you truly enjoy doing and you make money at it. Good money.
That's success.
Like that is success.
That's it. Like, I mean, and that to me, it's just like, I get to hang out all day, like goof off. I mean, like every day, like I have a podcast with my client. I talk to people from all walks of life all the time. I hear stories and perspectives from my clients that do everything from being criminals to, whatever, doctors, you know what I mean? I tattoo people of all walks of life. So I get to get different perspectives. Like, so I get to hang out all day, listen to music, goof off, dress how I want, look how I want, and fucking draw pictures on people. Like my work is fucking awesome every day, every single day. Like to me, that's success. Like the money, that's a bonus. Like that's cool that I've been able to afford the things that I have off of tattooing. And obviously like my finances might not be anything special to some people, like, but like to me, it's more than I ever like aspired to have or need, or it's, I live way beyond like my need to survive. Like I support my family. Like I'm proud. My wife was just a stay-at-home mom for a year, with our 2 young kids. So it's like the fact that I was able to we were able to afford to do that off of me tattooing and not really sacrifice too many, like the way that we lived, like that's success to me. It's just,
dude, I agree. I've sat in many chairs and you have people who tattoo because, hey, my buddy tattoos, he makes a lot of money. And you can kind of see that. Like when I first went to your shop, you're like, you're drawing or you're doing something. Like you can tell that you have a stake in this. I'm not just sitting down and handing my money over to someone who's just going to put something on me. Like, but I've been to shops where that's exactly how I feel. And I'm like, damn, dude, like it's not too late to walk out.
Yeah.
It's not too late to walk out. My first tattoo was my last name. Ooh, crazy. I know.
Yeah, man.
In a house. I was 15. And it was a tattoo party, which I didn't even know what that was. Man. And
it's like a Tupperware party. It's just like,
so
the host gets a free
it was
tattoo.
A goods exchange. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That paid for the tattoo. And I'm looking at this dude, and I remember thinking, everyone's like, oh, as long as you see them open the needle in front of you, you're good.
The tip of the iceberg.
And I saw that, and I'm like,
oh, we're good.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah.
You have since fixed that tattoo for me, but and then I'm like, whoa. The more I get tattooed, the more I start to learn about the process. I'm like, dude, I could have died. Like I could have died. That's how serious.
Get hepatitis or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, for sure. It's scary out there. Yeah.
And like success, let's talk about in this field, is like someone who takes the time, the patience to really dive into this, to better themselves, to better the process, to better the overall experience of tattooing. Like, dude, your shop was one of the dopest shops. I loved going there. Like,
thank you. Yeah.
And I hated that it was so far because I'm like, I just want to. I remember I drove to your shop one day just to stop in and be like, "Oh, what's up?" And you're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was just in the area. I drove out.
Yeah,
like,
an
whatever.
hour and a half away.
I drove out. Whatever. But from you dive into tattooing.
Mm-hmm.
You start. What led you to want to start your own business and then essentially make a difficult decision of closing those doors?
Yeah. So I feel like, where do I want to start with that? So I mean, like I was, like I said, I was tattooing, and I was at the shop that I started at, which was like good experience. I mean, it was like, but I felt like I was just, like I feel like every tattooer that I look up to, like they're well traveled, like they've put themselves around a lot of different artists, like they had a big circle of like people that they've met, like surrounded themselves around better talent. That's with with everything, like anything you do, like you put yourself around better people. I mean, it's like like if you're just smashing white belts, every day, like the free trial class kids, it's just like, how good are you gonna get?
Yeah.
Or if you're, training with the upper belts, like the higher ranks, like, yeah, you might be getting smashed, but you're gonna get better. And that's like, a lot of tattooers, I was at the shop, my initial shop, from the time that I started till the time that I left, it was like 9 years. And, a lot of that was just piercing and apprenticing. And then like doing like my first, I did like my first 5 years tattooing at that initial shop that I started at. And it was a good experience. It was a busy shop. So it was like, I really learned how to like deal with customers, like customer service, and just like kind of getting the basics. I had a lot of like machine time. So it was just like, I had a lot of experience with it, but I felt like I wasn't growing as an actual tattooer. Like I was kind of, like whatever. Like I just felt like I needed to get out there, but like, and I loved that shop. Like I started there. Like it was where I spent a lot of time. I was friends with everyone that worked there and stuff. But it felt like it was starting to get stale. And then, I ended up getting, as embarrassing as it is, I got another DUI. It was actually my third DUI.
I was waiting for what you were gonna say. I'm like, what's he
so, which was funny because I like after my first one. I definitely was like, oh man, like that was stupid. Like I need to be more responsible. Like I could have killed somebody. Like I could have killed myself, like screw that. Like that's so stupid. And then I got my second one a year later, and it was just like, again, like kind of a bad situation. Like didn't make the right choice. Like, we had a DD. She ended up getting served at a bar underage. So she was like having a good time. She was supposed to drive us all home. Like I was out with my buddies that were home from California, like skateboarding. And I was like 21 at this time, and like a year after I got my first one, and it was like our DD ended up getting drunk, and I hadn't really drank in my head like that much. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just chill, and I'll just like, she's having fun, I'll let her have fun. Like I could imagine how, I could only imagine how exciting it is to get served at a bar underage. But so I was like, I'll just, I'll sit this one out. So I started drinking water for like 2 hours, and I felt fine. I drove everybody home. I was like a mile from my house. I got pulled over, and got my second DUI. So that happened. And then, after that, it was just like, I was just like, yeah, screw that. Like, it's not even worth it. Never drank and drove anymore. Barely drank, like didn't really do, like anything. And then, and then I had my son at 25, my first son, my oldest son at 25 years old. So it was like after he was born, it was like I just quit drinking altogether. I was like, yeah, I can't deal with a baby hungover in the morning or like, or just anything. So it was just like I'd pretty much just quit drinking altogether. And it was like a year after my son was born, after literally a year of not even drinking at all, like ever anything. It was just like I went out with my buddy on my motorcycle. We were riding around. We stopped and got a beer. I hadn't been out in a while, seen a bunch of people that I knew. Everyone's buying drinks and stuff. And like I should have made a better decision. I was riding home. Guy pulled out literally right in front of me, totaled my Harley. It was this whole thing, got arrested, third DUI. So I was at the shop that I was at, for 9 years, and I got that DUI, and I knew that I was facing like jail time, like whatever, because it was my third DUI in 10 years. So it was like, I knew that some shit was coming, like that I was going to have to deal with some stuff and like, just whatever with the shop, like wanting to get out of there. And then, talking to my wife about like, what I should do. And, she was like, why don't you just get like a private studio, like in the town that we live in, just like, and just ride this year out. Cause you're going to be in jail or you're going to be on house arrest or like whatever you're going to have to do. So like, why don't we just like, whatever. So I was like, all right. So we found this little like studio space, and it was like super cheap. And I was like, okay, yeah, like do that, be able to like, cause obviously I'm not gonna have a license for who knows how long, like whatever. I was like, I could walk to and from work, like whatever, just make it easier. So I got this little spot, and then told like the dude that apprenticed me that I worked for that I was leaving. He kind of like blew up and made it like a bigger deal. Was like super hurt. And I was like, I honestly at that point I was like, oh, maybe I'll come back after a year. I just want to take this year of like kind of this punishment that I'm about to have to go through, just kind of like figure it out. So, the town that I lived in and where I like rented this little studio space was like this like uppity town that thinks they're, God's gift to the, world. But, so they like caught wind that it was like a tattoo shop. They're like, yeah, no, fuck that. Like, you're not coming in here. And I was like, yeah, I already signed the lease, like sent the security deposit out and like couldn't use this space. So then I'm like, oh shit. Like I had 3 months worth of appointments booked and nowhere to tattoo him. Like, and then the shop that I just, was leaving, like he did not take it well. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go back there. I'm not going to be like, oh, psych, like, can I stay? So I started looking and looking. We're looking for spaces. And again, like I didn't want a shop. I never wanted to be a shop owner, like ever. Like that was never something I wanted. And the space that I had in Swickley, I had a spot in Swickley for 2 years, opened up, and like the landlord was super cool. Like me and Jen had already had to get like our background check and like our, like credit report and stuff to like get the last studio space. So like we had him, we were like, here, he's like, hey, yeah, you guys are good. He's like, you can move in here. You can open a tattoo shop here in Swickley. So I was like, all right, cool. And it was like more of like a storefront where the spot that I got originally was like super private. Like it would be hard to find for most people. Whereas this was like a storefront in the middle of downtown Swickley. And it was just like not what I wanted at all. But I was like, well, looks like I got a shop. And then, so I moved in there, and started tattooing out of that. And, I was busy. I was super busy, and like I was doing well. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I got a shop, which I never wanted, because even in my head, it was like I'd only been tattooing for 5 years, and I feel like a 50-year tattooer shouldn't open a tattoo shop. Like they haven't earned it. Like they shouldn't. Like, and that's kind of a problem in tattooing. Like people apprentice and then they'll like leave their apprenticeship and be like, oh, I'm opening a shop. And like to me, that's not it. That's not the way you go
skipping a lot of
I know, I'm all over the
development
place.
steps. No, I mean like.
Oh yeah.
You're skipping a lot of like things you should probably go through.
Yeah, there's so much more you should learn. 5 years in the tattooing, you still don't know shit, honestly. To do that, it's just stupid. So it was like, I was like, oh man, like that. And that's half the reason I didn't want to open a shop, because I was like, I didn't think that I deserved it. I was like, shit, I'm still learning myself. Like, I got to figure this out. Like, by no means should I be a shop owner. I'm not good enough, But it was like just kind of the way that it happened. So I had that shop in Swickley, and I was really busy. And then, my buddy JoJo was tattooing. He was kind of bouncing around a couple different shops and wasn't really busy at any of the shops. And like I was getting crushed. So, he was talking to me. He started working a couple days a week with me at my shop. And, he was busy. He was busy at my shop. So he was like, yeah, screw it. So he ended up coming full time at my shop. So it was like me and JoJo were in the shop. And like I did the first year by myself, which is like I'm a social butterfly, dude. Like I love tattooing because I love being around other tattooers, and I love like a busy shop and people in and out and clients and customers and just like
what is it about that? It's like that in barbershops.
So cool. Like that's even like the private studio thing. Like that was never my goal, because to me that's like almost torture. Like that's taking what I love about tattooing out of it. And I love my clients. I do. I enjoy talking to them, but it's just like when it's just you and your client, you come in every day and it's like whatever, and you don't have that camaraderie of the shop and stuff like that. Like to me, now it's work. Like now it's just any other job. Like I'm going into tattoo to make money to go home. Like where it's just like, so it's like working by myself in Swickley for a year was like, oh, I got this shop and like I'm by myself. Like this sucks. Like I miss being with my friends every day and hanging out and listening to music and talking shit. And, so when JoJo came, I was like, oh, this is sick. Like tattooing with my buddy, bouncing ideas off of each other, doing artwork together, that was working out really well. And it was like, but I was paying, obviously rent on a spot in Swickley, and it was like in Swickley, it was pretty far away. So my lease was 2 years, and it was like Swickley just wasn't fun to have a tattoo shop in. They were just like definitely looked down on, tattooed people and, whatever.
They're different.
They're special. So, I ended up, there was a building that went up for sale, like literally it was a half mile. It was 0.57 miles from my house, and like a cool little town. And I got it for a good price. And I mean, the shop that, you came to where Golden Boy was. So I was able to buy that shop, buy that building. And like, I mean, my dad killed it, like did all the renovations, dude, made the shop so nice. Like I feel bad. Like that was when I closed it. Like that was the only, like I had no regrets about when I closed the shop, because I just felt like it was the right thing to do. But like the only thing I was like, fuck, my dad spent a whole summer. Like he would be at work all day, and my dad's in construction, and he'd be at work all day, and then for a whole summer, leave work and go straight to my shop and work on it until 10 p.m. every day for like the whole summer, getting it ready for me. And it was like, because he wanted his son to have a nice shop, a nice place to work, like, and he put so much time and effort, and like obviously that saved me thousands and thousands of dollars that my dad did the majority of the work, and it was cool. Like he put together such a sweet shop, and and I had a lot of my personality in that shop, and it was sweet. So we worked there, and JoJo was there for like so JoJo was there for a year at Swickley, the last year at Swickley, and then the first year at the Bridgewater shop. And then, he just decided, which I completely understand. And you know, he just wanted to get out, go tattoo around other people. Like, he tattooed with me for 2 years. Like, we had bounced all our ideas off of each other. He wanted to get back out there and kind of do his own thing, which I completely respect and understand. So he went and kind of, you know, and he also moved closer to where he was driving about almost an hour to and from work every day. So he got a, you know, he's at a shop a little bit closer to his house, just around other tattooers and stuff like that. So that was cool. But then it was like, okay, shit, I'm back to tattooing by myself again. And it's just like, and I have this whole shop. I'm paying all this overhead to have this like really nice shop. I got this mortgage. I got to have insurance on the building. I got to, you know, buy supplies, the toilet paper in the bathroom, like all these things, like, you know, to have this
boss
shop.
shit, entrepreneur stuff.
Well, yeah, but by myself. And I was like, and I didn't like, none of that shit was important. Like, you know, to me, it was not important to be like, yeah, I'm a shop owner. Like, that does nothing for me. Like, I don't feel special. It's like, you could literally rent a storefront and open a tattoo shop in it. You know what I mean? So it was like, to me, it meant nothing to be a shop owner. It was like, I wanted, like, the cool thing about owning a shop was like, I wanted to create a space where it's like, if you're another tattooer, you got a space to come and hang out, to draw and paint. Like, even like my buddies, like if we were bored and we didn't want to like go to a bar or like whatever, we'd hang out at my shop. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was a cool space. And that's what I wanted. Like, cause you know, falling in love with shops, I wanted to like kind of foster an environment that was like welcoming to everyone. Like, even like my customers, I try to make it very apparent. Like, you know, you had a rough day at work and you're just not ready to go home, you know, like, you know, you just need some decompressing time. Come hang out. Like, don't even talk to me. Go upstairs in the loft and hang out, watch TV, play PlayStation, like at the shop, like crack a beer. I always, you know, and again, like I don't drink or really do anything at this point. It's just like, I always had beer in the fridge, you know? So it's like, I wanted everybody, clients, other tattooers, anybody to just like come and hang out, like treat it like a lounge, treat it as like just a safe place to get away from life for a little bit. And like, and there's always a client in my chair, a client in the other tattooer's chair that, you know, you get perspectives, you bullshit with a stranger for a little bit and then go home, you feel better. So it was like, that was what was important to having a shop, that I could provide that, you know? And so anyways, like when JoJo decided to leave, I was like, shit, I'm by myself again. Like, this is boring. Like, I got all this overhead.
Everything you want in a shop is now
I'm not getting
gone,
it, you know, and that sucked, you know. And it was like, and that was the other thing, is like a lot of the cool shops that I, you know, always thought of, they're all in the city, like, because that's generally what attracts like artists and just people, is just like everything around the city. And I was like in a small town, like 40 minutes outside of you know, the city, and it was just like no one wanted to tattoo in Bridgewater. Like, no good tattooer that was aspiring to like be great or do good work or, you know, make good art, like wants to live in tattoo in Bridgewater, like a little, you know, blue collar area, you know, like whatever. So but anyway, so I was like, kind of sat back and I was like, shit, like I don't want to be here by myself. Like, it's so hard to attract, you know, talented artists, because in tattooing, obviously you get like the people that have good work ethic, but their tattoos aren't so great. And I was like prideful enough that like I didn't want bad tattoos coming out of my shop. But then you had like a lot of times the really good tattooers were not like the greatest human beings. So it's like, it's really hard to like kind of find that balance in a tattooer. And a lot of those tattooers that have both of the qualities, like decent human being, decent work ethic, and good tattoos, like they're shop owners already, or they're happy where they're at, you know, or they're in the city, you know. And it's just like no good established artist that's a decent person's coming to Bridgewater to tattoo. They're in the city, they own their own shop, or you know what I mean, like whatever. So, or they're happy where they're at. So I was like, what do I do? And then I thought back to like my shop that I started at, and I was like, how did he get so many good tattooers to kind of like stick around for a while? And he had a lot of tattooers in his shop, and like, not that I agree with this. And again, like this is kind of something that I'm not like the most proud of myself, because I feel like it goes against like my beliefs. But like, I thought he apprenticed them. That's how he got a good tattooer and someone that was worthwhile, is that like he kind of, even with me, he found someone that wasn't an artist, but like was a good person and seen drive in. Like, because you could teach anyone art, but you can't teach anyone a work ethic, a personality, like whatever. And like, I'm looking at like kind of his business thing of like, how did he find good tattooers, or even a lot of shops? Like, how do they fill these shops in this area with like decent tattooers that are like whatever? He brings them in and he builds them to how he wants, you know? So I was like, you know, and there was this girl that I had been tattooing for a while, and she had been like begged all the time, like, teach me how to tattoo, teach me how to. And I was like, hell no, like that is not like. And at this point, I've been tattooing for like 8 years at this point, which to me, like I've always said, like you shouldn't apprentice someone until you've been tattooing for like 15 years at least, like because I feel like even me at 11 years,
It's like
in,
retirement for some.
I mean, and
some
that's
gigs.
But to me, that's like you apprentice one person, you pass your knowledge that you've scraped together and you learned like from all your experiences, from all your like whatever your all your experience and everything, like you pass that on to one person, like your
passing
legacy,
the torch.
Yeah, and then you know what I mean, and then you're done. You should be done. Like tattooing doesn't need any more tattooers, honestly, and so I'm like, I'm still learning so much, and like I don't even think that I'm shit to begin with. So it's like, who am I to teach somebody how to tattoo? So I always said like, hell no, like I'll never teach anyone how to tattoo. I'm not bringing anyone else into this craft that I like hold sacred. But like, she was asking, and she was super cool chick. Her artwork was pretty solid. Like for being untaught or trained in any certain way, just like a natural talent. I was like, no, never tattoo. Even to the point, like, and I never blame people. Like, there's a lot of tattooers that, like, someone's like, oh, I want a tattoo. And they're like, no, fuck that, stay out, and it's just like.
What do they call that?
A gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper.
Yeah. So, and it's like, and I get it because tattooing doesn't need people. And it's just like, I feel like a lot of those gatekeepers, like, they see it where a lot of people are like, oh, I can draw. Like, tattooing seems fun. Like, I feel like there's so much more to it, and people that do like really respect tattooing and love tattooing, like truly, like passionately love, like I would like to think that I do, it's just like, you haven't earned it. Like just because you think it's cute and it's cool, like get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
Dude,
like
it kind of bothers me with everything though. People who are just like,
I could do this.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
and you're like,
do you understand how much like just energy and like passion I've poured into this for years, and you think you could just like
it waters it down. Look
absolutely.
look at what I do. For example, 2 industries I'm in, law enforcement. You get the people who are like been bullied their whole childhood. They're like pissed off at the fucking world with the chip on their shoulder, and they're like, how are people going to respect me if I wear that?
Yeah.
And then they come out and they treat people like shit.
Yep.
And everyone who's like, hey man, I want to get in and like really help people solve issues, like problem solving. I want to be able to like give back, and this is my way of giving back. You got people like that who now get treated like shit because of the dude who's like basically a bully with a badge, because that's the only way he can assert authority.
Right.
Because he or she's a fucking bitch,
Yeah.
and they haven't earned respect in life. So this is their way of like, oh well, now you have to respect me.
Right.
No, that's not how that works. Real estate, another one. An industry where you can make a lot of fucking money.
That's what people say, and they're like, oh, I'm going to make this money. But they don't see how much work it takes to...
Or they cut off all the extra shit because they know, oh, I get paid the same whether they hate me after this or not. And it's like, bro,
there's no integrity.
Yeah, there's no... You're
That's going back to, like, when you are financially driven, you lose integrity, and then everything falls apart. Restaurants... Like anything, you run a gym, you start cutting corners, you lose your passion, you lose your integrity for a financial gain. And it's funny, like that's a short-term gain that's going to be bad in the long. You're going to drive your business into the ground. You stay, it might be a slower gain when you stay true to it. You stay, you keep your integrity to it. You know what I mean? You do it for passion and not financial gain. It's like, it's a slower build to financial gain, but in the long term, you're going to be better off. And I even see that with tattooers, like tattooers that like just hit the gimmicky tattoos or like didn't truly learn. They just like, they figured out how to use an iPad and like the newer, technology and tattoo machines. And they were able to kind of like almost trick people into thinking they're good and just kind of pull it off. But it's just like in the long term and they're charging like the highest hourly rates and like whatever. And then it's funny, like just seeing their tattoos now and it's like, fuck, you actually never actually really learned how to tattoo. And now you fucking suck. And it was like, I wasn't charging $200 an hour. It's like, I was charging nothing when I started, but I was building honest relationships and building trust and loyalty in clients. And it was like, so I didn't make all this money right off the bat, but it was like, I was truly gradually learning. Cause I was like, I wasn't worried about money. I was more worried about learning how to tattoo, building relationships.
They say money is the root of all evil, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that
I don't. I'm going to stop you right there.
All right.
I think money amplifies who you are. So if you're legit a good person and you come to money, you're going to essentially do good and be good with your money. You're going to handle it well. You're going to manage it well. You're not going to treat people any differently. You may donate, you're going to do good things with your money, whether for yourself, your family. If you're a POS, I can swear on this is my podcast. If you're a piece of shit and you come to money, you're
a bigger piece of shit.
A bigger piece of shit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can.
You start flaunting it. You start like,
right.
Dude, and it's like, it's crazy. People are like, oh, money ain't money is everything. Money makes the world turn.
Well, it makes things easier.
Makes things a lot easier.
Absolutely.
And I think if you go through the process, whatever, tattooing, whatever, starting a business, whatever, if you go through the honest process of learning it, building yourself, money will come.
Yeah,
so long as you remain relentless.
Yeah, there you go.
I plug it in every time that it works. It works. But if you try to cut corners, if you try to half-ass, if you try to just get ahead, as Lou said, you become result-oriented and you're skipping the process.
Yeah.
It's going to show, especially when you put two and two together of, hey, this is a dude who went through the process, is still going through how long you been tattooing?
Like 11 years.
And you're just always talking about like, oh, I just want to learn. I just want to do it. It's like, you're still doing that. And then there's people who I know, who I won't mention, who launch a little shop and they're like, flash sale, we're fucking doing $100 tattoos. I'm like, $100 tattoos? For that?
Yeah.
Like, how?
And they're going to cash in, and they're going to do well financially, and it's just like...
In the beginning.
Yeah, and then people will find out,
That someone's going to come and be like, oh, actually, I love the work you've been doing. Can you do a sleeve on me? And they're like, a sleeve? I can do 5 of these together.
Yeah.
Like, no, I want a sleeve. Can you design me something? Oh, I don't do that. Well, you drew these. Well, I didn't draw these.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with tattooing is just like, it's a sad thing. There's so many people getting into tattooing because it's cute and it's easy and it seems fun and like I don't have to have a real job, make my own schedule, and I can make money. And it's just like there's enough like technology and ways to almost cheat it that you can't, like there's enough flash out there and like that's available to pretty much anybody. And you buy a tattoo machine on Amazon and it's like unfortunately they're like, whereas before you buy some cheap shitty machine offline. And it's a cheap, shitty machine. But like, unfortunately, just with how advanced technology is getting, like some of those shit machines you get off of Amazon, like that you could literally buy right now, it's not even that bad of a machine. I mean, shit, like guy that taught me a lot, Willie Roth, super talented tattooer that, I spent a lot of time with. I mean, that was the shop that I was just at after I closed my shop before I came here to Dearly Beloved. Like I learned probably more off of that dude about tattooing than any other, person. And he did tattoos on me with like an $8 rotary machine off Amazon. And it's top notch, top quality. I mean, so it's just like some of those machines, nowadays, and it's just like with the access to what a lot of people like, you could, like, I could teach you how to cheat tattooing and just like do tattoos that like you could make a career off. Like you could be financially stable off of. Like, are you ever going to be like a respected artist? Are you ever going to like, like whatever, like probably not, but it's just like, there are ways, the machines you can use, like an iPad, I could teach you how to like kind of skip the process and get by and like be a financially successful tattooer. And that's a lot of people are doing that. Like, it's like they found like little ways to kind of cheat it. And it's like, they're not real, it's just like, they don't heal right. They don't understand it. Like you can tell there's like not the passion in it. They're stealing images off the internet and just tracing it. And like, it's not real art. And then again, like, they get found out real quick because it's like, okay, well, I want this custom piece. And they're like, oh, well, I mean, unless you just want this.
Yeah,
like,
no, I
got
this, son. No.
So it's just like, I mean, you're limiting yourself is what it's doing. Like you're pinhole, you're pinholing yourself into like just this
and to each their own, man. If that's what you want to do, just don't claim to be a tattoo artist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's with anything. So speaking of that, like how you've been in the industry a long time, like how has it changed for you? What have you seen? Like you said, the machines have gotten better. Yeah. Like how have artists changed? Like we were talking earlier where you said, like you didn't, like this wasn't like the only thing you had available to you. This is something you intentionally chose.
Yeah, I mean, like even like and that goes a lot to kind of like the type of people that tattooers are now. And I would say like my generation, so like obviously I got into tattooing around like 2008, 2009, like when I kind of started in the industry, like got my first job at the shop. And it was just like, I feel like my generation was like kind of the first generation that like had options. Like they could have went to college. They could have pursued other careers. Like, and they chose tattooing. Whereas I feel like for the most part, all the generations before me, it was just like, you know, regardless of what they were, like, I mean, honestly, a lot of the tattooers that I look up to and I respect and good tattooers that I've surrounded myself with, it was like, they didn't have the best family lives, you know what I mean? And, you know, they didn't have the best support system, like, you know, bringing them up. And they were just kind of street kids, just running around like punk kids or like whatever. And it was just like, and they just kind of fell into tattooing because it was kind of like the grimier like lifestyle. And it was just like, and they just like, they could draw well. So it was like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to tattoo, you know, but it was like, it was not like necessarily like a promising career, you know? And I feel like that's why, you know, these shops were filled with these like punk rock kids that like never really like aspired to have much. Like they just didn't need much. Like you know, they weren't materialistic type of people, you know, they weren't consumers. So it was like some dude like offers them like, yeah, man, you get to tattoo, you get to do artwork all day. And, you know, I'll pay you fucking 50%, you know what I mean? Of whatever you charge. And like, you know, tattooers are like, fuck yeah. Like that's more money than I ever thought I would ever make in my life. And like, shit, I got a job and you can come and go as you want. You can, you know, be an artist still and just like, you know, shops open at 1 p.m. So it's like you party all night and still make it to work by 1 p.m. the next day. And it was just like, that was kind of, I feel like tattooing up until like around when I got into it, which like, even when I got into it, and I still like really respect and like kind of am upset that I missed like the tough, the gritty tattooing that was like kind of before me. Cause like when I got into tattooing, that was like when tattooing first got on TV. It started becoming very mainstream. And so it like started getting more popular. But even me, like when I first started getting very heavily tattooed and like almost obsessive over tattooing, it was still weird. Like there were kids, you know, the kid in high school was wearing a fucking cut off t-shirt in the middle of winter because he had one like cross on his bicep. You know what I mean? He was trying to show that shit off. Yeah, right.
I recently got this.
Yeah.
He just called me out there.
So, you know, so there were people with tattoos, but it was like they would have, that would be their only tattoo for their whole life. Whereas like I was trying to get covered, like I wanted a bodysuit, and you know, people were like, "Why? Like, why do you want to have that many tattoos?" I was like, "I don't know, because like you know that fucking motorcycle gang dude looks pretty cool over there."
So
like,
do you think the public perception has changed?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's like, so me, like I said, like I went to college. Like my brother's a lawyer. Like I had, you know, I had a great childhood and a great upbringing, and you know, my dad's one of the hardest working human beings I've ever met in my life. So it was like I had good role model, you know, my mom's one of the hardest working women I've ever met. So it's just like, I had all these opportunities. I didn't need to be a tattooer. Like I could have done anything. It was like, I pursued tattooing. And I feel like that's the case with a lot of people that started around my time. And then after, it was just like pursuing tattooing, you know? So, and that changed the type of people, whereas like, that's why there's a million fucking shops now, because like, you know, even me, it was like my wife, my parents, they were pushing. They're like, fuck paying that dude fucking 40% of what you're charging. Like, go do it yourself. Earn 100% of your money. And like, to me, I was like, you know, like I'd rather be in a shop around my buddies and like, you know, I don't really need that extra 40%. Cause like, and obviously it gets washed out when it's just you in a shop. It's just like, yeah, the 40% you're paying to the shop. Like now I'm paying the fucking mortgage and the insurance and all the overhead and stuff. So it's like, it pretty much evens out.
More responsibility, liability.
Yeah. So you're thinking like, oh, if I'm going to earn more income, it's like, you got to hire people. And then it's like, then you're just taking advantage of other people that you felt like you were getting taken advantage of, you know, before. So it's just like, but like, that's what's happened. That's why everyone's opening a shop now. They're like, well, fuck paying this dude 50% or 40% or whatever. Like, I'll go do it myself, and then I'll get people to pay me. So shops are popping up. And then I feel like then you start seeing a lot of like those dudes open these shops. They're like, well, fuck paying all this overhead and doing all this stuff and being responsible. Like, I'd rather go back to just paying a dude to like take care of all that stuff and like me just tattoo, which is essentially what I did, you know, like, whereas like I did it and I enjoyed being a shop owner. I loved my space. I did. And this is kind of going back to like, you know, kind of me apprenticing Ari, like when I ended up apprenticing the girl that had asked me to tattoo for a while. And I was just like, shit, like if I want to bring in a good artist that's going to stick around with me for a while, you know, it looks like I got to teach somebody. And it was like, kind of went against all my beliefs. Like, who am I to teach somebody? But, you know, she was a good chick. My wife actually, you know, knew her and was just like, came home. She was like, well, Ari said, you know, like I asked Ari what she wanted to do with life, and she wanted to be like, she said she wanted to tattoo. And I was like, well, why doesn't Cory apprentice you? And she's like, I've been fucking asking him for 2 years and he won't. So Jen came home and was like, why don't you apprentice Ari? And I was just like, fuck, maybe.
She put you in that spot.
Well, so, and you know, and I was kind of leaning that way anyways about like who to apprentice. And there was another kid that was kind of asking and like whatever, and, you know, talked to both of them. And then Ari just seemed a little bit more committed and everything like that. So ended up like kind of, you know, teaching Ari how to tattoo. And it was cool. And like, I decided in my head, like, I'm not, and like, this is going to sound bad, and I don't mean any disrespect to my mentor or whatever. Like, he gave me a great opportunity, brought me into this career, and I'm forever thankful. And he's still a friend of mine. Like, I still like him, but like, I feel like I didn't learn much in his shop. It was almost like, you know, just fucking figure it out. Here's a machine, like, you know, like whatever. And also like, you know, I can take some blame for that. Like, I feel like I was not the most, like, I probably could have done more. Like, maybe he did say like, oh, you should be doing this. And it was just like, I was like, yeah, like whatever. And like, you know, so it's like, it probably is on me. So it's not all the blame, but I feel like I didn't learn much. Like with Ari, it was like, I took it very slow. Like, we're not taking another step until you get this down. Like, I like really laid out like everything that like I learned from like the tattooers that I like went out of my way to meet and network with and kind of build relationships with, and the books that I've studied, the tattoos, like try to break it down. And again, like I felt like I was a decent teacher because like I feel like I had to break down tattooing to such a simple, like intellectual, like kind of approach to it that I was able to kind of pass it on. Whereas like when you're learning from an artist, which the guy that taught me how to tattoo,
our first guest.
The guy that taught me how to tattoo, like he was an artist. So he would try to tell me how to do things. He would try to tell me how to do things. And he was like, well, just do this, because it was like natural to him. Like, whereas like me, I was like, shit, like, I don't know what you're telling me to do because, you know, like I don't get it, like, you know, because I'm not an artist. So, that was like a big, you know, learning curve for me. Whereas like I said, when I was teaching Ari, it was just like, I had to simplify down the process for me in a relatively recent time, that it was like kind of easy to pass that along to her and like really simplify and dumb it down. Like, this is what you do. This is what you should look at. Like, this is like the type of stuff you should, you know, like the way to approach it and stuff like that. And teaching machines. And luckily, like I started in a time where I was still using coil machines, like the oil, you know, the older machines. So, you know, kind of giving her the rundown. At least I knew a decent amount about machines, whereas now people just like grab a rotary and they're just like, you know, here you go, like run it till it dies and then throw it away and buy a new one. So like, and she caught on quick. Like, she was a good apprentice. Like, she caught on to everything that I was telling her, like very quickly. You know, and she would, like, when she would fuck up, and I would be like, and I established it from the beginning. I was like, if we're gonna do this, like, I'm gonna be brutally honest. Like, I'm not gonna like tiptoe around stuff. Like, you do a shitty tattoo or like you do a shitty drawing, your painting sucks. Like, when you're, you know, like whatever, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna point it out, but I'm gonna correct you. I'm gonna say like, this is why this sucks. Look at this one. This is why this one's good and yours sucks. Like, and she was very receptive to that. So, she picked it up pretty quick because she was very receptive to my criticism and didn't take it to heart and was like, okay, cool. And would implement like what I would tell her almost immediately. So anyways, even teaching her kind of reminded me of a lot of stuff. I was like, even me, I was like almost impressing myself. Cause like, even like telling her about like artistic things that I didn't even realize that I knew myself, where I'd be like, you know, I'd look at her tattoo and I'm like, shit, the lines are clean. The shading's saturated and smooth. Like, why does this tattoo look bad? And I'd be like, she doesn't understand value, you know. And it's like every, you know, color was like on the same kind of value. And it was just like, and then like Tanner was like, holy shit, like I didn't even realize I knew that, you know. And it was like, and I would have a book that I had studied and I would like show it to her and break it down to her and be like, read this, you know. And it's just like, so she would now understand it. And she was good, like where she'd be like, okay, and she would get it, you know, and just kind of implement that. So anyways, like I had this really good apprentice and she just started killing it right off the bat. I mean, just like really solid work, and she got busy real quick, and it was great. I mean, like we were two peas in a pod. Like she, you know, like she was the same. It was like a father-daughter relationship, you know. Like we were like the same person. She talked like me, she acted like me, we joked around the same way, you know. And it was real good. And then back in February, you know, she decided to go elsewhere. And it's funny, like I don't fault her. I'm not mad at her because it was like I was someone, you know, because I knew how much it got for me. Like I was always hanging out at different tattoo shops, like surrounding myself by other tattooers that I looked up to and aspired to and getting tattooed by them. So like I told her, like, that's a huge part of it. Go draw and paint with other tattooers, make relationships with tattooers that you look up to, go and get tattooed by other tattooers. Like, I don't know everything about tattooing. You're like, I will teach you my way, but that's not the only way. Like you like go find, you know, something that might work better for you. So, you know, with that, after, you know, it was about 9 months after her apprenticeship, she like sat me down like one day and was just like, hey, I'm going to take this other job, you know, at this other shop in the city, which, you know, I said like, and she got into a shop full of like insane talent, you know, like really talented tattooers that tattooed like in the style that she was trying to pursue. So like my hat goes off to her. Like I get it. And I mean, I even like kind of pushed that, to, you know, for her to do that, to, you know, kind of surround herself around, you know, other tattooers. So it's just like, but it sucked because I was like, fuck, I taught this girl everything that I knew, like, you know, kind of laid it out for her. I thought I was getting like a good solid tattooer to work in my shop and like, you know, and be able to bounce ideas, talk tattoos with, you know, like whatever. And it was like, fuck, she's gone back to square one by myself again. And it was like back to that, well, I'll never apprentice anyone because I'm like, shit, I just taught that girl every secret, everything that I ever learned in my whole career. And, you know, I got 9 months, you know.
Kind of improves the entire industry though. If everyone approached that, like, hey, I'm not gonna hold back. I'm gonna give you everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's,
like, imagine
that's
if everyone
everything. If you have
that.
a mentor that's willing to not like hide their secrets, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want you to be as good as me. Like my, like I said, if I'm going to do this, I want her to be better than me. I'm going to try to teach her so she can surpass me. I'm going to give her everything that I learned in 15 years in a year. And then if she can use that as a foundation, like she's going to obviously go further. So, but like that was my thing. I was like, well, I'm not going to fucking apprentice someone. And like, it's so hard to find quality tattooers, especially. And that was the thing. It came down to like where I was at. Like maybe if I had a shop closer to the city, it wouldn't be so hard to find good tattoos. It was like, but in the area that I was at, just no good tattooers were like hanging out there. And a lot of the tattooers that stick around, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. Like, I don't want anyone to take this personally because there are a lot of really good talented tattooers around the shop that I was at. But it was just like, they're complacent. They're either over it, like they're good tattooers, but they're just, you know, they got a family and tattooing's no longer interesting. They're not trying to, so it's just like, it's just a job to them. You know what I mean? They become complacent where they're at and they just like the simpler life, like outside of the city. So no disrespect that's, you know, what works for some people. But, you know, like, so, but that was like, my whole thing was, you know, when she left, I was like, fuck. What am I going to do? I got to find a new tattooer or I have to sit here by myself again. And like, you know, to me, like the growth in tattooing is putting yourself around other tattooers, you know, and being in a good shop with like-minded people and artists and stuff like that. So, you know, I sat there for a week after Ari like decided she was going to quit. And I was just like, you know what? I think that it's time to just kind of, close up the shop and, you know, and put myself around tattooers that I want. So essentially, you know, that's what I did. I decided, I was like, you know what, screw it. Like, I'm going to just get back out there, like getting rid of this overhead. I can kind of put myself in a shop that I want to be at, you know, rather than I'm like stuck in my shop because I have to pay the mortgage here. I have to pay these bills. So like, of course I'm going to just be at this shop and I can't really leave or do much, but it's like, I close this shop, you know, and I can go do guest spots, like, because I won't be stuck with overhead regardless. And it's like, I can go do guest spots. I can go put myself in other shops. I can go work around other tattooers, like just so much availability. And then like this goes with, you know, a big thing that I agree with that Tony Passos, who is Lou Armazzani, you know's mentor and coach. He came to do like a promotion ceremony and like kind of seminar at Lou's gym the one time. And he said, you know, even in jiu-jitsu and in life, it's just like, you know, you can't be scared to let go of good things sometimes, you know, because like, you know, if you hold like in jiu-jitsu, like say you have a good like deep lapel grip, you know, and it's like you're safe. Like they, like, you know, your opponent can't do much from there. They can't submit you. Like you have a good grip. And, you know, they can't, you're safe, you're comfortable because they can't do much. They can't advance position. They can't pass your guard. They can't submit you from there. But you also can't do much from there either. You can't submit them. You can't, you know, advance to a better position. So even though it's comfortable, it's a good grip, it's safe, you have to let that go, even a good thing, to advance. And obviously you're accepting the fact that also in that you could get submitted. You let go of that good grip. It could go wrong as well, but it could also go right.
Very well.
It could go well. And that was like kind of like the pivotal point with me. It was like, fuck it, I'll close the shop. Cause the shop was a good thing. It worked. I could have stayed comfortable there forever and did it. But, you know, like I said, I hold on to it too long. Like I'm preventing myself from growing further, to getting better, to putting myself around tattooers. So that was kind of my decision to close the shop. Was just like, I seen it as a really good thing, but you know.
What advice, real quick, before we cut out, what advice would you give someone trying to break into this industry the right way, do it the right way, do the appropriate steps? Like, what advice would you give them to be, if they want, for aspiring tattoo artists?
Shit, I mean, know what you're getting into, you know, and I feel like it needs to come by genuine. Like, don't, like, why do you actually want to do it? Like, not like, because it seems cool, it seems fun, it seems like tattooers make good money, because a lot of people are like, oh, they charge $200 an hour. Like tattooers charge $200 an hour, and they're like adding up the math real quick. They're like 200 times 8 hours a day. That's $1,600 a day times 5. You know what I mean? Times 4 weeks a month times 12. You know, it's like, and they're adding up this like astronomical like income, and it's like, it's not like that. You know, and it's just like, you know, I would say like draw and paint, like get tattooed, and then see if it actually is what you want to do. Like and put in the real work. Don't like, you know, and I feel like that's so many people. They're like, well, I want to apprentice. Like, you know, people say all the time, they're like, well, I'm trying to get into tattooing. It's like, oh, well, you know, have you put in a portfolio? And they're like trying to find an apprenticeship before they're even willing to like draw or paint. It's like, no, like you should be putting in that work regardless of what happens. Like, you know, don't like, well, I'm not going to do it if it's not going to work out for me. You know what I mean? It's like, do it.
You're already
then
skipping a step.
Happens,
yeah, you're
you know
already skipping the
like,
most important step.
But and I feel like that's the case with everything and everyone nowadays. You know, people are just lazy. They're like, well, I'm not gonna like waste my time and do it if I'm not gonna benefit from it. It's just like, if you want a tattoo, you should just be drawing and painting. Like,
you're gonna benefit.
Like, and that was even me, where it was like I was like kind of drawing and painting, but I was submerging myself in it. Like no one had to tell me that. And it was like, and I was doing that regardless of if I had a guaranteed apprenticeship or not. Like I took that piercing position, and it was like, that could have went nowhere. You know what I mean? I stayed at the shop, like, you know, and that could have went nowhere, but it was like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing it, and it's going to work out. Like I'm going to force it to go, you know, work out. So.
Well, I appreciate you for jumping on. I appreciate the folks at Dearly Beloved for letting me occupy their space.
Yeah. Beautiful shop.
Yeah, it's dope. It's dope. The area's dope. The shop looks dope.
Thank you.
So Morris just came in, so I'm going to introduce myself, but appreciate you for jumping on. It's the one with Cory Speciale.
Appreciate it.
Later.
You've been listening to The Relentless Project. Ish Lopez grew up in the heart of the inner city, but he managed to build multiple income streams, join the ranks of law enforcement, and dive into countless ventures, all thanks to the incredible relationships he forged along the way. And now his passion is to share those stories with you. Make sure to connect with us on social media. Find Ish on Twitter and Instagram at The Ish Lopez, and the show at Relentless PRJCT. We're on all the major streaming platforms, from Spotify to Apple Podcast and Google Podcast, and wherever you like to catch your favorite shows. See you next time on The Relentless Project.